Meeting is being live streamed. Got it. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Breaking the Past Ceiling. My name is Autumn Rowe, and I am a SONA board member, a very proud SONA board member. If you're not a member of SONA, I encourage you to join it, look us up. And we are basically here to celebrate Black History Month. I've had the honor of being able to pick some people that I really love and admire and talk to. I think it's really important that we celebrate our past heroes and our history, but also our future heroes and our present day amazing humans. And here today is my good friend, Shun, who I actually became friends with over the pandemic through Zoom session, which she writes. And we have met in person. We have hung out in person since. But one of the coolest things to come out of the pandemic was meeting you. And I'm so grateful for our friendship and our musical kinship. So welcome, girl.
Thank you. Likewise, you really were a ray of sunshine in a world of Zoom and being stuck at home. It's so nice. As someone who's I guess I'm trying to realize I'm not as anti-technology and internet as I think I am, but as someone who's always thought I was that way, actually the best thing that came out of being stuck inside on my computer was meeting a friend through the computer. So I'm so happy to know you.
Oh, I'm happy too. I guess I was thinking about what should we talk about for this, and the kind of idea was a play on words of breaking the glass ceiling. And there are so many kind of how do I say this, obstacles we face as a whole in the music industry for anyone in general, but then other particular obstacles we face as women, and then as women of color, as Black women. So kind of I'd love to know, how did you get into the music industry?
Wow. Before I sort of list the steps that I took to get in the music industry, I feel like I first have to credit magic, even more so than that. I would say just this overwhelming feeling that my parents instilled within me that anything was possible and I was capable of anything. And my mother, from when I was a very young age, seeing how the world around me acted and moved and reacted toward people of color, thought it was very important to instill within me the sense that I could do anything in the face of people telling me that I couldn't do things, or that I couldn't go there, or that I couldn't be friends with them, whether they were telling me directly or passive aggressively or indirectly. My mother very specifically always told me I could do anything. So I feel like when I realized I wanted to become a musician, I, in spite of all of the doubts and the fears, of which I had many, also had this voice in my head telling me, well, it seems impossible, but I think it's possible. Because as my mom had said, you can try. It doesn't mean you can succeed at everything, but my mom taught me I could try and do whatever. But aside from that sort of mentality and always having to come back to it, I forget it all of the time in moments out. Usually when moments external to myself, I allow it to impact me internally. But aside from that, it was a really big hustle. It was back in the MySpace days. I started writing songs at the same time that I started recording myself, engineering. So I was always cutting my own demos, and I made my own songs in my room in college. I didn't have other friends who were musicians. And I put them on MySpace, and then I would hit up producers and engineers. I always figured the artists were too impossible to reach, but that if I reached out to the people behind the sound, songwriters as well, that those people would be more receptive, or even just have the inbox space to see my messages. So I hit up a lot of engineers a lot of producers. And it was through that I got my first sessions, and then slowly worked my way into being the artist and songwriter, producer, engineer that I am today. What about you? What's your start?
First of all, I love that you brought up MySpace, and I want to shout out MySpace. Actually, I would love a MySpace comeback. MySpace, for anyone who wasn't like a part of MySpace, for some of the younger folks, like I used to actually meet so many people on MySpace. Like I used to talk to like people like Ryan Leslie and like Questlove, and like I wasn't even doing anything at that time, like serious. I just had like a band and stuff, but I felt it was actually so kind of like it was easy to access people then. Like
Uh-huh.
it was different too, and it didn't feel like, I don't know, it was such a different time. Like there was kind of an innocence to it. Like it was just very different than now. But yeah, MySpace was very special, and I wish I could get into my MySpace account, but I cannot remember my password, and I don't have access to that email anymore. But I got into the music industry by interning. I started when I was 16. I started interning at record companies, and I was in 4 choirs at once. And I had a very crazy high school period. I basically went to high school in Times Square, and I was super full on. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do music. I thought I wanted to own a record company at the time. So I went to a high school for international business, and I started getting artists to perform at my school. I started hanging out with artists, like just following them anywhere, to a show, anywhere. I just wanted to learn and be around. And after a year of interning, I realized I don't want to work at a label, and I wanted to be more creative. And I was in a girl group for years, and then I was the lead singer of a band for years. And then I eventually, through writing my own songs in my band, like developed as a writer. At the same time as doing all this, I was singing jingles. I was singing background vocals for tons of TV shows like Dancing with the Stars and all these kind of shows, all the backing tracks. And I was working at a shoe store, and finally it was like, I gotta write something so I can quit this damn shoe job. I hate selling it. These shoes are just not it, you know? So I did end up writing a song called Happiness, and that led to my publishing deal, and that opened up a lot of doors for a career. And that was 12 years ago, as crazy as that is. You know, it's a crazy roller coaster, this industry. And I feel like I've worn so many hats, that it's so good now, because there's so many situations you might be in where like you just don't know what your role should be in that room to make the room the best room it could be. Whether it's like a background vocalist, or or you know, a lead vocalist, or a producer, or a songwriter, or a vocal producer, or a vocal coach, or a hand clapper, you know, like
Therapist.
therapist, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. There's so many things I want to talk to you about. I'm like, where to begin? First of all, like Grammys. Let's talk about your Grammy nomination. Like, what's going on? Let's hear about the project.
See, I want to talk about yours, but since you're asking, I'll go first. But I can't wait to congratulate you again and again. I had the honor during, I mean, I guess we're still locked down in so many ways, but during the first wave of lockdowns, of working on Angelique Kidjo's album. She is a legendary African artist. And I really don't like how artists from around the world, if they're not from essentially Europe or the US, are categorized into world music, and sort of given these own separate categories, and not, it's very hard to be allowed to be put into pop, R&B, hip hop, you know, but she's an artist of the world rather than a world musician, is what I would call her. I grew up really looking up to her, not just because she's a phenomenal musician, but because of the messages in her music. And throughout her career, she has always brought in the younger generation of African artists to collaborate with. So many artists sort of stay on their own. They stay on these islands, and as time goes by and they become legendary, they continue to stay on these islands. And I feel like this happens with producers and songwriters as well. But to me, all of the best are always interested in what's happening in the present day and in both teaching and learning from the younger generation. So she asked me to become a part of her project, which was very much about loving and respecting Mother Earth and the unification of people, Africans, and all things. And it was totally up my alley. And we worked totally through correspondence, through hopping on Zooms and emails. And yeah, it was just such an honor. And I'm, especially as a Zimbabwean, I grew up in Zimbabwe, for my first recognition, you know, from the Grammys, to be for working on an African project feels so special to my heart. And the fact that I was nominated for the award was announced by the person who you worked with on a phenomenal project. And that is my segue. Tell us about the amazing work that you've done.
Well, thank you for that. And congratulations again. We must celebrate in person soon. Yeah, it's crazy. So, you know, I hope this story inspires anyone who's in need of inspiration. But I met John Baptiste through Instagram, and and so it's a crazy story. We worked on the song without meeting each other first, and all I heard was a vocal. When I heard his vocal, I was so drawn to that voice. I went on a mission for months to try to find the body to match it. I'm like, who is this? I just had a demo, so I didn't like know who it was or anything. So I finally track this man out, you know, with some detective work, contact him through social media. He finally sees the message after months, and we meet up in New York, and we just played each other music. And I just was like, man, I don't know. It's just something about you. Like, he just inspires me in a way I haven't been inspired before. And we got to work. He came to LA. We hooked up with my production partner, Kizzo. And on the second day of working, we wrote Freedom. And it just came together so organically. Like, when I say nothing is forced, I mean, nothing is forced. We write these songs so fast, and it just flows. Like, no one second guesses each other. It's like, oh, this idea, cool. This idea, great. This idea, great. This sounds awesome, blah, blah, blah. It's just it's just energy in the room, and it's beautiful. But kind of like, similar to what you said, for me, We Are was so important because the ancestry and the stories of this album and everything behind it is something that has been in us for decades and before we were born. And it's so many things I wanted to say for so long, but I didn't have a way to say it, you know, because as a songwriter, I need an artist. I need a vessel. I need, you know, I have a lot of messages, but like, how do I get them out? And who's the right person to collaborate with them with? And John is such a person of intention, and he has so much to say. So we basically, you know, we did the music we felt fit. And for that, out of my 12 years of doing music, for that to be what got recognized, it was so worth the wait, and so significant and so important. And it means so much to me. Also, this year, as far as I understand, all the votes were made directly by just voting members, you know? So it's just really special that, like, I feel like we were recognized by our peers, and that both of our projects are not necessarily like mainstream pop music, but for them to get like recognition the way they did, I think validates artists and songwriters and producers to create music that they love, and that feels genuine.
That's such an important point. I spent a lot of years of my life. It's now been, I'm not sure if it's been 6 or 7 years that I've been a full-time songwriter. And 12 years ago, I ventured into music full time for the first time, and the waves of the industry were too difficult for me. So I quit and moved into journalism. And I had to get my bearings. And I also needed to learn to become more self sufficient so that I didn't have to rely upon other people to make music. Because I found that when I had to rely upon people to make music, I felt forced to be in situations with people who weren't good for me, or in settings that weren't good for me or safe for me, especially as a woman. So when I came back into music, I had the tools, and I felt like I was at a point where I could create music alone that was on par with music I was hearing, even if it wasn't stylistically or thematically the same. But I still wound up in a cycle of writing a lot of mainstream or middle of the road pop music, which is good music, and all music, behind all music are the hearts of the people who make it and the hearts of the people who receive it. So I don't think it's fair to say this genre is better than this genre, or it's more about what makes your soul happy. And my soul wasn't happy when I was making mainstream pop music the majority of the time, because I got into music because I found that it was the best way for me to use my voice and my words to try to make the world a better place and to attempt to die in a better world than I was born into. That concept is really important for me, and doing my part to try to ensure that is really important for me. And that's why I'm a musician. And I didn't find that fulfillment from mainstream pop. So when everything shut down, I figured since my life as a songwriter was so difficult anyway, and finding the fulfillment was so difficult, I should just do a little experiment and only work on things I loved, only work on things that align with my moral compass and things that align with my visions for myself and for the world that I want to live in. And it was when I started doing that so many pieces of the puzzle kind of snapped into place. And then I began to feel like I was flowing, working on more and more things that I loved. And then the work that I was doing was being recognized in a more meaningful way. And that's not necessarily Grammy nominations, but in terms of the quality of the words that people give to you after they've received your music, and the depth of those words, the way that people are taking the songs in, completely changed. And I've never felt more fulfilled now that I've made the decision to work on projects I love. It's terrifying too, right? Like at times, at my most stressed out times, which happens definitely absolutely once a month. And then every once in a while for other random reasons. But I wonder, have I made the right decision? Am I making the financially right decision? But I'm always reminded of the fact that everything in my life that I have felt fulfilled by came with the greatest amount of risk and the greatest amount of fear.
Amen. I'm 100%, 200% with you. You brought up something too that sparked something that I think about a lot. Like when We Are came out, some people were like kind of surprised. They were like, "Oh, I didn't know you could write this kind of music," which is
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous because this was the music I was writing before I was writing pop. But anyway, but one of the reasons why people weren't aware of it was because I stopped writing more soulful music because it became challenging to find safe spaces to make that type of music. Thankfully, Kizzo is the best person ever, and I have a very safe space, and John is incredible. But for a long time, I didn't, and I was in sessions where I just felt like I was being disrespected, um, getting like, I just wasn't safe, and if you don't feel safe, like you're not going to create your best work because creation is a vulnerable thing. And I wonder so many times, like, how much is the industry suffering from women not having those safe spaces? Like, imagine the music we could make if we felt like we could 100% be our true selves. And like, what do you feel?
Can you first, just because we all have different definitions of what safe means, will you define what you mean by feeling unsafe and what a safe space is to you?
Yeah, like, so for me, like, I've worked with people who are texting me like inappropriate things in a session, or, I feel like they're not valuing my brain. They're valuing more physical attributes, and they don't take my work seriously. Um,
Mhm.
so then I don't feel like I'm in a safe creative environment in that way. And I definitely had a lot of other like female friends have similar feelings. Um, so yeah, that's what it means to me.
Mhm. I totally agree with you. I think there are so many ways that a creative environment can begin to feel unsafe. On a purely creative level, it can feel unsafe to me or has felt unsafe to me in the past when it's an environment in which one person has veto power over all ideas. And due to just the statistical breakdown of what writers are technically at the top and which ones are in the middle and which ones are at the bottom, this sort of like a socioeconomic hierarchy of songwriting and production. They tend to be very wealthy white men. And usually the wealthiest white man in the room, not usually, but in a lot of rooms I've been in, gets to have the say as to what's a good idea, what's a bad idea, what's a valid idea, what's an invalid idea. And I see that in so many rooms. And it's not necessarily like these men are setting out to be that either, but that everybody else in the room also is maintaining this sort of hierarchical structure. And in a lot of those rooms, I found that my ideas were either shut down a lot of the time or not even heard. Like the feeling of, it's sort of like the feeling of sitting at a table and adding something to a conversation and not a single eye moves your way or person responds to what you said. It's a really awkward feeling. Sometimes they genuinely don't hear you, but a lot of the time it's considered to be like the polite way to shut down somebody's creative idea in a session. And I found that yeah, I find that happens to me the most in rooms where people either consciously or unconsciously think less of my ideas because I'm a woman of color, because I don't come from the same socioeconomic background or currently have the same socioeconomic standing. I'd say I feel very unsafe in those settings. Aside from that, as a woman, I feel similarly unsafe when I can tell that what I'm being valued for is something physical and not anything having to do with my brain or my ideas. And that actually all goes back into your ideas being devalued, right? Like when somebody only perceives you as everything but good at what you do.
Right.
Your ideas aren't going to be heard or listened to. But on the flip side, when you're in a room in which you feel completely safe and comfortable to share your ideas, to share your creativity, to to say anything, kind of like a room in which nothing is the wrong thing, rather than a room in which people say no to every idea, a room in which people say yes or yes and or even a little yes but everything comes from a place of wanting everyone to feel safe to share their ideas. I feel very comfortable and I feel like everybody does. And that's when, like you're talking about with We Are, these songs just happen. You don't even really have to think about them. And I kind of think of it like everybody's energy, everybody's little spirit animals come out and dance with each other and then become one big, more beautiful spirit animal rather than going to war where only
Yes.
like one animal can win on each line or each chorus or each thing. It just feels like who did what? I don't know. Here we are though with a beautiful song at the end.
A
Um,
100%. And it's a magical thing when you can have that. And it doesn't happen every day.
yeah.
Um, I'm not sure. I hope everyone gets to experience that feeling. And I hope so, so much so they know when when that is happening and that is like goals, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to, I don't feel like it's possible to have that in every session. There's just no way. But when you can find that combination, like definitely stick to it. Um, Also, like, just so everyone knows, like, Shun is a sick producer, sick songwriter, sick vocalist, sick artist. Like, Shun just does so many things. Like, just killer. So, you looking for female producers, like, pay her well.
Oh, thank you. I think a lot of why I learned how to produce and engineer, I touched on it a little earlier, was in order to be able to create my own safe space, whether that was to be able to walk into a room and know that I was capable of doing the things that other people were doing, or and to not just ask for but demand an equal amount of respect. um, but also so that no matter how the course of my day goes, maybe I have a day and I've written a song with someone or many people, and it wasn't energetically right, or the song just didn't turn out great, which is totally fine and totally normal. I feel really comfortable in the fact that I can always go home and make something, or I can always wake up and make something that, or maybe tomorrow I'm going to work on some music that that I love, but doesn't fulfill a certain part of who I am as a musician. I know that when I come home, I can always do that. So it kind of gives me this feeling of safety and comfort and a certainty that no matter how other people's words, actions, desires, and whatnot impact my day, I can always within and with myself create
Mm,
something that makes me feel um, good as a person and a musician.
I think I feel the same way. And I think it's really important that creatives create music because they love to create music.
Mm-hmm.
Not just creating music because you're trying to get a cut or you're trying to chase something, but create music because you are a creator. And
Mm-hmm.
even if that, I write songs all the time that nobody's ever going to hear and I just record them for no damn reason. Like these songs are never
Yeah.
going to see anything, but they, like you said, they fulfill something and they keep me creative and they keep me open, you know, to receiving energy and ideas. And I think that's really important. Uh, um Another thing, like I feel like you and I are kind of like into multiple genres. um
Mm-hmm.
we do, we like dance music, you know, we like so many different things. Do you feel like, how do you feel like, do you feel like people are open to songwriters being so genre fluid?
I think that it's changing, but I think that for a very long time, and it continues today now too. It very much depends on your race and your gender, and I keep coming back to that. But I do think it's been notoriously, historically, and still currently difficult for the music industry, the machine itself, right? Not like necessarily specific individuals, but the machine as a whole, to comprehend, and this is their problem, not the problem of the writers and the creators, to comprehend that a person of color can be great at pop and rock and soul and and electronic, and it sort of dismisses the fact that all of these genres are descended from Black music.
Hello.
But I've had to fight very hard and take a very strong stand in asking people to recognize me, for what I'm capable of. For example, I love classic folk music, and a lot of how I write is influenced by that. And I write a lot of classic folk songs. But for a long time, in spite of sending so many folk songs in to so many people on various teams, I was never asked to work with artists in that genre, never asked to work with artists in genres that are similar to folk, always put in sessions with sort of like, the best way I can put it is super ratchet teenagers. I'd sit there thinking, why am I here? And the only explanation I could come up with is because I'm a woman of color. And you think like, I've got this one in the bag. In fact, I have that one the least in the bag of all of the things I could possibly write. But I had to continue to say out loud and to show people through making songs on my own or with other people, like, this is what I'm capable of. I need you to also acknowledge this side of who I am. I found that for me, the best way to do something or to get something done is not to talk about it, to not tell, but to show. And I do think as a woman of color, you'll have to show and show and show again. But I think for all songwriters, all producers, all artists, we can talk about who we want to be and what kind of music we want to make forever. And there will always be new dreams and new things to talk about. But the way I found that people actually stop, listen, and then act accordingly in terms of bringing opportunities to you or thinking of you for certain things, as if you've shown them that you're already capable of it. You know, like if you really want to get into writing country songs, the best way is to write some country songs, not to ask people to hook you up with country writers and artists. You know, just try it out. Kind of like put together a group of songs in the genre or style that you want to do more work in. For me, that's been the best way to get things done, including for my artist project. You know, I had to make the album in order for people to comprehend that I'm an artist.
Absolutely. And that's why, you are embodying breaking the past ceiling, because a lot of people haven't been able to do what you've done. And a lot of people are currently trying to. And
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right. Like someone asked me the other day, like, oh, my friend wants to get into management. Like, can you help them get a job? I was like, they just need to go manage somebody. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but like, go find an artist and manage them, like,
Mm-hmm.
now. And now you're a manager. It's that easy. Um, but it's so true. And like, it's like a lot of people might look at you, but they're not seeing you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a lot of people are hearing you, but they're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
And it it is repeated over and over and over again. I feel like many times, no matter what I've done, sometimes I still get sent a project that literally makes no sense why somebody would send me that. But then I think, oh, it's because they're just looking at me. They haven't listened to anything I've done. And even if they did, I don't think they can really hear it for what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it sadly still happens, but we got to just power through and like you said, just keep doing what we do. Um, and that's it. Doing it because we love it, not doing it. And also like not doing something with the energy that we're proving it to anyone. Cause like, I feel like that's also a lot of people are working too much with this energy of like, I've got to show everyone. That's not the vibe. Just do what you do kind of like with love. And I think it will eventually land where it's supposed to land. But I want to end with like a fun question. Um, what was your, and I really don't know this like answer. What was your favorite, if you can think of one, your favorite song as a child?
Wow. Huh. That is a great question. I mean, my mind flashes back to so many things. Um, Growing up, the Zimbabwean government controlled TV and radio, and only allowed things to play that they deemed to be appropriate, to that um, they didn't think would disrupt society too much or their ideologies. And I remember getting I had a lot of access to amazing Zimbabwean music, and I'm so happy to have grown up in that musical culture. Zimbabwean people are by nature so musical, even those who don't technically sing or play instruments. Like my dad walks house stomping his feet, clapping and whistling, and it's beautiful. Like it takes everything in me not to invade his privacy and record it all and put it all in songs. So on one hand, I would say just the atmosphere around me is like my favorite childhood musical memory, but also what came through. Walk Like an Egyptian came through to us as kids.
I love that song. The Bangles, yes.
Yeah, I absolutely love that song. And I have to be completely honest though, my happiest childhood music memory was when I got my first CD and CD player, and it was NSYNC No Strings Attached.
Yes.
Christmas Day. And I laid on the floor for the rest of the day, from morning until night, reading the booklet and memorizing the lyrics to every song. And to this day, it's the only album I know all of the words to. It just is. I can tell you about all of the hip, cool, dope music I listen to, but I cannot sing every word on any of those albums.
Well, I think we're gonna have an NSYNC party, because I slept in the street to meet NSYNC in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom, I couldn't believe she let me go. It was thousands of girls in sleeping bags in Times Square, and we all slept in the street to get a ticket to get an autograph from our album the next day. Okay, so we slept in the street. We got this ticket at like, I don't know, 8, 9 a.m. Virgin Megastore, and then came back, waited in another line to get this album signed. Justin Timberlake, you were not very nice to me. I'm just gonna put that out there, and I haven't forgot. You had your back to me, okay?
He didn't make out with you.
I mean, like, we make sacrifices for this, okay? And the whole band was like high-fiving us, blah, blah, blah. Justin's back was to us. He didn't even look at us. I was like, word, okay. So if I ever meet Justin Timberlake, I really am gonna need you to make up for that moment. But I get it. I mean, maybe that's why we do music now, because, as far as songs go, those were incredible pop records. They were just so well written. Like, they were just phenomenal. I don't know what my favorite song is either. I was a massive NSYNC fan. I remember as a kid, like, really getting hooked onto like the songs of like TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever the theme song, even if it didn't have words, I would put words to the melodies. So I would like talk about what the show was about, to the like I used to do it to, there's a show like Genie, I Dream of Genie. I was like watching all black and white episodes. My mom would let me see, and I was like, Genie lives in the bottle, and I was just always like writing. That was really fun, and but yeah, so many good songs. So
beautiful. That reminds me of my little sister and I used to write songs all the time. Like, unlike a lot of musicians I know, I didn't actually know I wanted to or could be a musician until later in life. And that was a function of growing up where I grew up and my parents' emphasis on education and just wanting us to have the best opportunity possible to end the cycle of poverty that we were in. So I was a really great daughter. And I thought, well, of course, I'll do as my parents say. And this makes perfect sense. We don't want to be stuck in this place forever. We don't want to be on food stamps forever. We don't want our clothes donated to us forever, things like that. So I understood where they were coming from completely. And although I knew I loved to make music and my sister and I grew up writing songs together, it really honestly didn't cross my mind that I could become a musician. So I studied engineering in school, civil engineering. I tried to get away with acoustic engineering. My dad was like, nice try, not the right kind of engineering. But yeah, my sister and I wrote songs together when I was really young for fun. And what you said just reminds me that maybe a part of me did know that I was going to and wanted to do it, but I sort of pressed that down until I realized I had free will and that I could actually help myself and my family and society in general out better by doing something that I truly love and believe in.
Yes. That's funny. I thought I was going to be a writer at like 6 years old, 6, 7 years old. I thought I was going to write a book to pull my mom and I out of poverty,
Hmm.
and sell this book. I don't know where I got these ideas from. Like this, I look back and I'm like, whoa, who put this in my head? Like, I have no idea where any of this came from, but I don't know. In my mind, I was like a little business person. It's very funny. And maybe I will write a book actually. I think I'm working on one. But Shun, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You are such a phenomenal woman, and I deeply admire you. I'm really blessed we became friends, and I can't wait till you're back in town and we could go hiking and have an NSYNC party now. Like, I'm dead serious. You're coming over, and I'm gonna DJ NSYNC for like 2 hours.
Please, please do. I can't wait to see you, DJ.
Only gonna be NSYNC.
For those who don't know, Autumn is a phenomenal DJ, not only of NSYNC.
Moving forward, it's an option. Thank
You
you.
have written that book. You wrote that book. Put all your songs together, print them out on
Yes.
paper. That's a book.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Tell us your socials so everyone here can follow you.
My socials are all at Shungudzo, SHUNGUDZO.
Perfect. And
And yours?
mine is my Instagram is at Autumn Rowe. Also, you can follow Sona. Go to wearesona.com website. Go to We Are Sona LA Instagram. Join Sona. Sona is an advocacy group where we advocate for songwriters and for fair pay, fair treatment. We are not allowed to unionize, but this is kind of the closest thing we can do for the moment. If you want to donate, if you want to join, whatever, please do. Songwriters are here to tell the stories of your life. We are here to tell the soundtrack of your life. All we want to do is give love and spread good messages. So come and help us out. Thank you very much. And I love you, Shun. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
I love you too. I also just want to say to any songwriters out there before we go that it's completely normal to doubt yourself a lot of the time. And it's completely normal to feel like things are going nowhere. But one of the most beautiful things about being a songwriter that keeps me going is that every day you have an opportunity to make something beautiful. And you never know where those beautiful things will lead you. It could be tomorrow, it could be in 5 years, it could be in 10 years. There is no like proper timeline for any of this for any of us. So I genuinely think that those who don't quit always make it.
100%. I say that every day. I'm like, yo, I am not the best at anything, but I'm not a quitter.
Same.
I am not a quitter. I remember Will Smith said something one day. He was like, I will outwork. It was like something like, I will outwork anyone. I will outwork anyone. And that's all it's about. Like, you ain't got to be the best at nothing, but you just cannot give up. So keep going, everybody. Please keep going. I know it's hard. You might have to work 20 jobs. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. Don't let go of your dreams.
And you don't have to be the best, because nobody writes like you. Nobody's had your life. Nobody's had your experiences. Nobody sees the world through your eyes and can translate it with your words. And that's what makes each of us so special and important.
100%. I love you, girl.
I love you too. I'll see you soon.